They thought humanity would break. They were wrong. We were just getting started. The first thing Elias Cade understood was that fear had a sound. It wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It hummed, low and constant, like the vibration of a massive engine heard through metal walls. It settled in his chest as the alien medical chamber sealed shut, translucent crystal walls sliding into place with a soft, final chime. Light flowed through the chamber like liquid, pale gold and blue, tracing veins through the walls as if the room itself were alive and watching him breathe. Elias forced his shoulders to relax. Panic wasted oxygen. Panic made mistakes. He had learned that lesson on Argent 9, crouched in a burning maintenance corridor while the sky above the station tore itself open. Back then, he had been just an engineer, one more human trying to keep old systems alive with bare hands and stubborn hope. Now he was something else. A specimen. Alien figures moved beyond the chamber, tall and slender, their skin shifting color in subtle ripples that betrayed emotion despite their stillness. The Velith Concord called themselves observers, but Elias had seen enough war to know that observation was never neutral. Their eyes followed him with precise curiosity, not cruelty, but something colder, calculation. He looked down at his hands. They trembled slightly. He clenched them into fists, grounding himself in the familiar ache of muscle and bone. Human. Fragile. Temporary. He wondered if the aliens could see the scars beneath his skin, the microfractures from decompression events, the scar tissue near his ribs where shrapnel had kissed him without killing him. None of it made him special. It just meant he had survived longer than others. A memory surfaced without permission. His sister's face on a flickering comm screen, trying to smile while evacuation alarms howled behind her. "You better make it back," she had said. He hadn't promised. Promises felt dishonest during wars. A Velith medic stepped forward. Its skin glowed with a cool analytical blue, limbs unfolding with precise elegance. Commencing full-spectrum biological and neurological scan, it announced. Then, almost as an afterthought, it added, "We will assess how much of the human is weapon." The words hit harder than Elias expected. Not because they were insulting, but because they stripped him of something he still clung to, the idea that he was just a person. He swallowed, throat dry. How much of him was a weapon? His hands, that repaired power relays under fire? His mind, that kept working even when grief pressed like a physical weight? Or the part of him that had overloaded a station core, knowing he would never see the place again? Light swept over him, warm and invasive. It sank into his skin, into his bones, into places he didn't have words for. Holographic symbols bloomed around the chamber, spinning faster and faster, layers of alien mathematics unfolding in 3 dimensions. Elias's heart pounded. He focused on breathing, counting each inhale, each exhale, like he used to do when the shelling got close. He felt exposed in ways no human scanner had ever managed. Memories flickered at the edges of his mind. Fear, guilt, stubborn determination, pulled forward by the scan as if the machine didn't care where data ended and identity began. Beyond the chamber, the Velith mammoth. Their skin flashed colors Elias didn't fully understand yet. Interest. Surprise. Something sharper. The scan ended with a soft harmonic tone. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Elias opened his eyes. The lead medic stared at the readout, unmoving. Then its skin pulsed a brilliant, unstable shade. Weaponization index, it said slowly, as if testing the concept itself. 100%. The words echoed in Elias's head. 100%. Not partially. Not conditionally. Fully. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. A hollow laugh escaped him, quiet and shaky. "That's not possible," he muttered. But the aliens didn't laugh. He was escorted from the chamber into corridors that curved like the inside of a shell, smooth and luminous, humming with contained power. Through massive viewport windows, a nebula burned across space in brilliant color, beautiful and uncaring. The Concorde ship drifted at its edge like a patient predator. Questions came quickly after that. About pain. About fear responses. About why humans kept functioning after systems should have failed. Elias answered honestly, because lying felt pointless. He spoke of panic attacks and shaking hands. Of nights where he wanted to stop, where the weight of loss felt heavier than gravity. of choosing to stand up anyway, not because he was brave, but because the alternative was unthinkable. The Velith listened. Really listened. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and exhaustion, something stirred. Not pride. Not anger. A quiet realization. If surviving made him a weapon in their eyes, then humanity had been misunderstood from the start. Outside the ship, distant stars burned steadily, unaware that one frightened engineer might soon redefine how the galaxy saw his species. The first tremor ran through the Concorde ship like a distant thunderclap, subtle enough that Elias almost convinced himself he'd imagined it. Then the lights shifted, not dimming, but sharpening, as if the air itself had tensed. A low resonance crept through the floor, beneath his boots, vibrating up his legs and into his chest. Instinctively, his body reacted before his mind caught up. Adrenaline surged. Muscles tightened. Fear, familiar and unwelcome, slid back into place. The car had arrived. The corridors filled with motion. Velith moved with practiced precision, their skin patterns flashing rapid signals Elias was only beginning to recognize as urgency. Holographic indicators ignited along the walls, projecting spatial data, threat vectors, probability trees that shifted by the second. Through a viewport, Elias saw the first enemy silhouettes emerge from hyperspace, vast, asymmetrical forms that looked grown rather than built, like living scars torn into reality. His breath caught. The car ships didn't glide or maneuver like anything human. They pulsed, contracting and expanding as if breathing, their surfaces rippling with bioluminescent veins. Even at this distance, they radiated menace. Predators that had done this before. Many times. A Velith strategist appeared beside him, taller than the rest, its skin flaring a sharp amber. "You should remain in the observation tier," it said, voice calm but tight. "This engagement may escalate beyond projected survivability." Elias nodded automatically, but his eyes stayed on the display. Beyond projected survivability. He knew that phrase. Humans used different words for it, but the meaning was the same. The first exchange lit the void. Concorde defenses fired coherent beams of blinding white-blue light, slicing toward the car vanguard. The beams struck and bent. Not deflected. Redirected. The car hulls warped, surfaces rearranging in real time, energy bleeding harmlessly away along organic channels. Elias felt his stomach drop. "They are learning," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The car responded with a wave of distortion that rippled through space itself. The Concorde ship shuddered violently. Consoles flickered. A distant explosion reverberated through the hull, followed by alarms that rang with lead, alien tones. Fear roared back, hotter this time. Elias's heart raced, palms slick with sweat. A part of him wanted to curl inward, to become small and invisible. He hated that part, but it was honest. He had never claimed to be fearless. He had only learned how to move while afraid. He watched as Velith tactical projections shifted, strategies collapsing and reforming. Their technology was extraordinary, but Elias could see the hesitation now. The Concorde had never fought something that refused to behave predictably. Their models assumed limits. The car ignored them. Another impact. The floor tilted sharply. Elias stumbled, catching himself against a curved railing. Pain fled in his shoulder, grounding him. "Think," he told himself. "Just think." His eyes tracked the data flows spilling across a nearby holopanel. He didn't understand the symbols, not fully, but patterns didn't need translation. The car attack pulses reminded him of something uncomfortably familiar. Power surges cascading through an overstrained grid. Feedback loops reinforcing themselves until systems failed not from damage, but from overload. The realization sent a chill through him. "They are not just attacking," Elias said suddenly, louder than he meant to. A few Velith turned toward him, their skin flashing questioning hues. "They are forcing your systems to respond in predictable ways. You're adapting to them, but they are adapting faster." The strategist's gaze sharpened. "Explain." Elias swallowed. Doubt clawed at him. Who was he to speak here? A tired engineer among beings who bent stars to their will. But the thought of staying silent felt worse. "Back home," he said, choosing his words carefully. "We had grids that were too complex for their own good. When something hit them hard enough, they'd reroute automatically, protect themselves. Problem was, attackers learned to exploit that. You hit one node, the system compensates. Hit it again, and eventually the compensation is the weakness. The Vilith studied the projections anew. Their skin shifted through rapid cycles. Calculation. Re-evaluation. Another Concorde vessel flared on the display, its signal collapsing into static. Elias's chest tightened. He saw Argent-9 all over again. So the moment when waiting for permission had cost lives. You can't just block them, he said quietly. You have to force them to overcommit. Let them adapt, then punish the adaptation. Silence stretched for a heartbeat too long. Then the strategist inclined its head, implementing human-referenced counter-pattern. The ship's energy output shifted. Elias felt it immediately, a change in the vibration underfoot, less controlled, more aggressive. Concorde weapons fire altered rhythm, deliberately irregular now, baiting responses instead of reacting to them. For a moment, just a moment, it worked. Several car vessels stuttered, their synchronized movements breaking. A ripple of something like hope passed through the command chamber. Elias let himself breathe. Then the car changed again. A concentrated pulse slammed into the Concorde ship, stronger than anything before. Console shattered. Energy arced wildly through the air. Elias was thrown off his feet, pain exploding along his ribs as he hit the deck hard. He gasped, vision swimming. Around him, Vilith scrambled to stabilize systems that were spiraling out of control. The enemy had adapted to the strategy itself. Elias lay there, staring up at the glowing ceiling, fear and doubt crashing together. Maybe this was the limit. Maybe human adaptability wasn't enough this time. But as alarms blared and the ship shuddered, one stubborn thought refused to die. Humanity had never survived by being enough. They survived by becoming more. The betrayal didn't come with a dramatic announcement. It arrived quietly, wrapped in logic and necessity. Elias sensed it first in the way the Vilith command nexus shifted around him. The frantic urgency that had filled the chamber moments earlier narrowed into something colder, more deliberate. Holographic projections reconfigured, not toward the car fleet this time, but inward, toward the Concorde ship itself. Security fields tightened. Access layers sealed. He pushed himself up from the floor, ribs screaming in protest. The pain felt distant, secondary, like an afterthought. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice rough. No one answered immediately. Then the strategist he had spoken to before turned, its skin glowing a controlled, resolute silver. "We have recalculated survival probability," it said. "Continued integration of human neural input increases risk to the Concorde beyond acceptable thresholds." Elias stared at it, the meaning landing slowly, heavily. "You're shutting me out." "We are isolating variables," the strategist corrected. "Your species' cognitive patterns are volatile." A bitter laugh escaped Elias before he could stop it. Volatile. He thought of burning cities, of evacuation ships packed beyond capacity, of people choosing who lived because there wasn't room for everyone. Volatile was a polite word for desperate. "You asked what humans become under pressure," he said. "This is it." The Vilith did not respond. Energy barriers slid into place around the nexus, translucent walls humming as they separated Elias from the central command interface. He stepped forward instinctively and stopped short as the field flared brighter. Beyond it, the battle worsened. The car fleet pressed in, their organic ships flowing into new formations, exploiting every second of hesitation. Concorde vessels faltered one by one. Elias watched helplessly as a ship on the outer ring was pierced by a coordinated strike, its signal blinking out in a silent flash of light. Something inside him cracked. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was the slow, crushing weight of inevitability, the feeling that he knew this moment too well. The point where reason said retreat and hope said stay, and command chose safety over risk. "Please," Elias said, surprised by how quiet his voice was. "If you cut me off now, you lose the only thing they don't understand." The strategist hesitated. Its skin flickered, just for an instant. Then the car struck again. A boarding organism tore through the hull near the observation tier, its entry marked by a violent shudder that threw Elias sideways. The energy field collapsed briefly as systems rerouted power. He stumbled through, barely catching himself as emergency lighting flooded the corridor in harsh white. The air changed. It smelled sharp, electric. Screams, alien and unmistakably afraid, echoed down the curved passageways. Elias ran. He didn't think about it. His body moved on instinct, pain forgotten in the face of urgency. He followed the sound, boots slamming against the floor as the ship groaned around him. Ahead, the corridor split open where the car organism had breached. Walls peeled back like torn flesh, organic tendrils creeping inward, pulsing with sickly light. Velith defenders lay scattered, their advanced weapons useless against rapidly shifting armor. Elias skidded to a stop, heart hammering. Fear surged up, hot and paralyzing. Then he saw the child. Small compared to the others, its skin flickering wildly between panic hues as it crouched behind a shattered console, trapped by the advancing tendrils. It wasn't a warrior. It wasn't anything but alive. Something snapped into focus inside Elias, sharp and unyielding. He grabbed a fallen energy tool, damaged, flickering, and hurled it toward a nearby conduit. It struck and detonated in a burst of light, the sudden overload forcing the car tendrils to recoil, confused by the unexpected spike. Elias didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, scooped the child up awkwardly, its weight lighter than he expected, and ran as the corridor shook violently behind him. He barely made it around the corner before the breach sealed itself with emergency plating. He collapsed against the wall, gasping, lungs burning. The child clung to him, its skin slowly settling into muted, uncertain tones. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Elias laughed, a broken, breathless sound that surprised even him. His hands shook, his vision blurred. The fear he'd been holding back crashed in all at once, leaving him weak and exposed. He wasn't built for this. He never had been. The Velith found them minutes later. Armed. Alert. The strategist approached, its skin unreadable. "You endangered yourself," it said. Elias looked up, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. "So did you. You just didn't want to admit it." Silence stretched between them, broken only by distant impacts. "The car are adapting beyond our projections," the strategist finally said. "Our losses will accelerate." Elias pushed himself to his feet, every movement an effort. "Then stop fighting them like you're afraid to lose," he said. "They expect caution. They expect optimization. They don't understand sacrifice." The strategist studied him, truly studied him. Not as data, as a being. "You propose integration again," it said. Elias nodded. "Not just integration. Commitment. Route the feedback through me. Let them hit me instead of your systems. That would cause severe neural trauma." Elias exhaled slowly. He thought of Earth, of everyone still standing because someone else had taken the hit. "Yeah," he said. "That's kind of our thing." Outside the hull, the war raged on, indifferent to debate. But in that narrow corridor, between fear and resolve, a decision was forming, one that would break something forever. Whether it was Elias or the enemy remained to be seen. 4. The connection burned. There was no gentle transition, no careful calibration. The moment the Velith systems routed through Elias, the universe seemed to detonate inside his skull. Light, sound, pressure, everything arrived at once, a tidal wave of sensation that threatened to tear him apart molecule by molecule. He screamed, the sound ripping out of him before he could stop it, then clamped down hard, teeth grinding as his vision fractured into impossible colors. This was what it meant to be the conduit. He felt the ship as if it were his own body. Every surge of power was a pulse in his veins. Every hull impact was a blow against his ribs. The Concord systems unfolded inside his mind, not as alien code, but as instinctive pathways, suddenly intuitive in a way that defied explanation. Fear sharpened into clarity. Pain narrowed into focus. The car struck again. Elias felt them before he saw them, a predatory pressure probing the network, testing responses. They expected rerouting, expected optimization, expected the same elegant caution they had already learned to defeat. Elias gave them something else. He let the hit land fully, resisted the instinct to soften it, and fed the energy straight back through himself. The backlash tore a cry from his throat. His hands spasmed. Blood trickled from his nose, warm and startlingly bright. Somewhere distant, he heard Velith voices rise in alarm. Hold together, he told himself. Just a little longer. He reached for the car signal patterns, not with analysis but with something rawer, intuition forged by too many crises survived by instinct alone. He sensed the rhythm of their coordination, the way each unit leaned on the others, the hidden assumption that no enemy would willingly absorb catastrophic loss. So sure of yourselves, he whispered hoarsely. He twisted the flow. Instead of blocking the next strike, he opened everything. Power surged outward in a deliberately unstable cascade, a feedback storm timed to the car's own adaptive cycle. It was inefficient, wasteful, terrifying. It was human. The effect was immediate. Across the tactical displays, car vessels spasmed as their synchronized responses turned against them. Signals overlapped. Commands collided. Their organic hulls pulsed erratically, bioluminescent veins flaring too bright, too fast. Elias felt it all, every failure, every cascading overload, like nerves misfiring in a single, colossal organism. The strain was unbearable. Memories flooded and unbidden as his mind strained at the edge of collapse. Earth's blue cave against black space. His sister's laugh. Rain on concrete. The simple, stubborn idea that someone had to stand in the way. He anchored himself there. Another surge ripped through him. His knees buckled, but unseen hands, Velith, working frantically, kept him upright. The child he had rescued stood nearby, watching with wide, luminous eyes, its fear slowly shifting into something else. Awe. With a final, shuddering push, Elias released everything he had left. The counterpulse tore through the battlefield like a blinding dawn. One by one, the car ships went dark, their coordination shattered, their living systems unable to reconcile the contradiction Elias had forced upon them. Predators that could not understand self-destruction faltered when faced with an enemy willing to embrace it. Silence followed. Not immediately. It came in layers, as alarms fell quiet, as weapons powered down, as the immense pressure inside Elias finally released. He collapsed, consciousness slipping away like water through open fingers. When he woke, the pain was distant, dull to a manageable ache. Soft light filled the chamber, warm and steady. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was or who he was supposed to be. Then he breathed, and it all came back. A Velith elder stood beside him, taller than the others, its skin glowing with calm, reverent hues. Through a wide viewport behind it, stars drifted past, peaceful, unthreatened. The car have withdrawn, the elder said. Their advance is broken. Others now rise against them. Elias swallowed. His throat felt raw. Earth. Scarred, the elder replied. But alive. Relief hit him harder than any impact had. He closed his eyes briefly, letting it wash through him. When he looked again, the elder inclined its head. We asked how much of a human is a weapon, it said. We believed the answer was biological, chemical, neurological. Elias managed a weak smile. Yeah, you weren't wrong. Just incomplete. The elder's colors shifted, thoughtful. You are not weapons, it said slowly. You are what remains when survival demands everything. The words settled deep, heavy with meaning. Elias turned his gaze back to the stars. They looked the same as they always had, beautiful, distant, indifferent. But something had changed. Not out there. In him. He was still afraid, still tired, still human. And that, he realized, was exactly why they had won. Right. Chapter 5. The war did not end all at once. It never did. It loosened its grip slowly, reluctantly, like a storm pulling back from a coastline it had already scarred beyond recognition. Elias learned that during recovery, days blurred together in the Concorde's medical sanctum, a place of curved light and quiet hums where pain was measured, managed, and never dismissed. His body healed faster than expected. Human resilience, the Velith said with something like reverence, but his mind took longer. Sometimes he woke certain he could still feel the ship inside him, phantom pulses of power echoing through nerves that had once carried more than flesh should ever allow. When that happened, he sat up and breathed. In. Out. Just like Arginine. Just like 100 other moments where panic had tried to claim him and failed. The Velith came often. Elders, strategists, scientists who now spoke less and listened more. They no longer looked at him like a specimen. They looked at him like a question they were still learning how to ask. Other species arrived too. Delegations that had once dismissed humanity as loud, short-lived, inefficient. They watched Elias from a distance at first, uncertain what to do with someone who did not look like a weapon, did not sound like a conqueror, yet had stood where entire fleets had failed. Elias found the attention uncomfortable. He wasn't a symbol. He was tired. One cycle. When the stars outside the viewport shifted to a familiar alignment, the Velith child visited him again. It stood awkwardly near the doorway, its colors hesitant but warm. In its hands was a small construct, an abstract shape of light and crystal, imperfect, asymmetrical. "For you," it said. Elias accepted it carefully. "What is it?" The child considered. "A reminder," it said. "That fear did not choose for us." Something tightened in Elias's chest. He nodded, unable to trust his voice, and the child left with a flicker of quiet pride. News from Earth came soon after. Cities damaged but standing. Orbital lanes reopening. People arguing again about small things, resources, politics, whose fault it had been. Elias laughed when he heard that part. Humanity arguing meant humanity alive. His sister appeared on the screen a day later, eyes tired, smile real. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. Some things didn't survive being put into words, and that was fine. When Elias was finally cleared to walk freely through the ship, he wandered alone to an observation gallery overlooking open space. No alarms. No urgency. Just stars, scattered like promises no one had the right to make. The Velith elder joined him without sound. "Others will tell this story," the elder said. "They will simplify it." Elias snorted softly. "They always do. They will say humanity is dangerous. Also true. They will say you are exceptional." Elias turned, meeting the elder's gaze. "That one's wrong." The elder's skin shifted, contemplative. "Explain." "I didn't do anything special," Elias said quietly. "I just didn't stop when it hurt. Neither did anyone else back home. That's not exceptional. That's just being human when there's no other option." The elder watched the stars. "That may be the most dangerous thing of all." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe it's the only reason anyone survives long enough to learn something better." The Concorde ship altered course soon after, not toward conquest, but toward coalition. Signals spread across known space, clear, undeniable proof that the car could be resisted. Not outmatched. Not outbuilt. Endured. Across the galaxy, species began preparing not just defenses, but alliances. Shared warnings. Shared mistakes. Humanity was invited into rooms it had never been allowed to enter before, not as a curiosity, but as a voice forged in consequence. Elias declined most of those meetings. He wasn't done healing yet. On his final day aboard the Concorde, he stood once more before a medical scanner, not as a prisoner, not as a weapon, but as a guest. The Velith medic hesitated before activating it. "This scan will be recorded," it said, "as reference." Elias shrugged. "Go ahead." Light passed over him again, familiar now, almost comforting. The machine processed, calculated, concluded. The medic studied the result, then looked up. "Weaponization index remains unchanged," it said. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Still 100%. The medic paused. Its skin shifted to a softer hue. "No," it said. "Undefined." Elias exhaled, surprised by the relief he felt. When he finally boarded a human vessel bound for home, the stars outside looked no different than they ever had. But the silence between them felt altered, charged with possibility. Humanity would be feared in some places now, respected in others, misunderstood almost everywhere. That was fine. They had never needed the galaxy's approval to keep going. They had only ever needed one simple truth, proven again and again in fire and fear and stubborn hope. Humans were not weapons. They were what happened when breaking was not an option.